What's up everyone, welcome back to the Lace Up channel. My name is Mickey. In this video, I'm going to give you your ultimate guide to cycle counts. We're going to talk about what is a cycle count. Then we're going to talk about what causes the need for a cycle count. What are cycle count methodologies you can use? And last but not least, what are the cycle count best practices? Anyways, let's get right into it. So what is a cycle count? A cycle count is a transaction designed to ensure the accuracy and validity of your inventory. So a cycle count means that you're going to walk up to either a bin or a product within your warehouse and you're going to count it. So let's say, for example, I've got 100 bananas in a bin in my warehouse. I walk up to that bin and let's say I only count 90 bananas. Well, when we enter that 90 bananas into our system, the system should generate an adjustment of -10, indicating that in that bin or for that item, there was a shortage of 10 bananas. Quite simple, right? Now at this stage, you're probably like, Mickey, that sounds an awful lot like physical inventory counts. What's the difference? Listen, Johnny, I'm with you. It sounds almost exactly the same, but there is some tremendous nuance between the two approaches. So in a physical inventory count, you literally have to shut down your entire operation and you have to count everything. And until everything's counted, you cannot resume executing picking, packing, and shipping actions. Now, this is a problem because it takes a tremendous amount of time to count a large warehouse. At times, my customers have had to do this on a Saturday and a Sunday, which can be a little bit bad on employee morale as well because everyone's got to come in on a weekend and count product. Now, even though there's a bunch of negatives to doing physical inventory counts, I can tell you unequivocally that doing them will ensure the accuracy of your inventory. And I can tell you that your employees on those days will be 100% focused on counting inventory. So maybe your physical inventory counts will be just a little bit better. That being said, most companies can't scale their business whilst having to count every product in their warehouse every single month. So that is where this concept of cycle count comes in. A cycle count is designed to count a small segment of your inventory, a small sample. Pretty straightforward, right? Then when you count that sample, normally you're going to uncover issues. And you can solve those issues for that small sample and then extrapolate those fixes across all of your products. So a cycle count makes you or allows you to take your counting from a physical inventory, large batch approach to a small batch cycle count approach. Now guys, at this stage you're probably like, okay Mickey, why is a cycle count necessary? Why is it that my inventory is wrong in the first place? Well, it's pretty straightforward guys, and I've made multiple videos about this before, so I'm going to make this quick and painless for you. First and foremost, the fact that somebody messed up on receiving. So how many times your employees mark the wrong quantities when they receive? They don't see items in their entirety. They miscount items, right? They mislabel or misidentify which items were actually received. They make a set of mistakes that make the inventory inaccurate from the time it enters your dock door. And now, when that product's checked in to its bin location, obviously that's going to yield some inaccurate inventory results. So the first way that inventory gets destroyed is through inventory receiving. Secondly, human errors putting the product away. How many times have your employees taken the product or taken a pallet of a product and put it in the wrong place within the warehouse? I can tell you my customers do this all the time because unequivocally, all my customers have employees that are just looking to get their job as fast as possible and get home to their families. So what they do when they're checking a product in, they might go to the location or the range of bins that's supposed to host that particular product and find, hey, there's no space. So then they take that pallet and they find any open space in the extreme other end of the warehouse. Bear in mind, some of these people don't have WMS systems, and they put the pallet over there. Now, obviously, over time, people forget that that pallet is over on the extreme other end of the warehouse and the product eventually gets wasted. So these errors in check-in processes create overages in some bins, shortages in others, which are a complete disaster. The third place where there's errors to the inventory is in damaged and return items. So damage and returns are normally treated by the distributor as a credit. So when you go credit a customer and pick up the product, you bring it back to the warehouse. That being said, most ERP systems, most WMSs treat both return product and damaged items that were returned as the same, which means that your inventory goes up. And the distributor fails to identify a process to categorize those products and then to adjust out the added inventory from the credit. So that's an easy way to get your inventory messed up. If I pick up 5 bad bananas from my customers and those come in on a credit, jack up my inventory by 5, well now my inventory is going to be short those 5 bananas because in reality I'm going to take them and throw them into the garbage can. The fourth way inventory gets destroyed is through pick and pack errors. You guys know this. I picked the wrong item, I picked the wrong quantity, or I shipped duplicate items. Pretty straightforward. I've talked about that 100 times. The fifth and final way inventory gets messed up is the way that none of us want to admit is there, called product shrinkage. So we have an employee that walks into the warehouse and schemes a way, right, to walk out with product. That happens. I mean, I know to some extent it's not too crazy at most warehouses, but it does happen. Anyways, now that we know why a cycle count is necessary, let's get into the different cycle count methodologies. So the first method of cycle counting is called ABC cycle counting. ABC cycle counting takes a page from the 80-20 rule, and it applies a weight to each of your products. So let me tell you what, the 80-20 rule basically says that 20% of something yields 80% of something else. And you can apply that directly to your product. 20% of the product yields 80% of the product sales. So what the ABC method says is you want to apply an A, a B, or a C to your product. A products are those that yield 80% of the sales. B products are those that yield the next 15% of sales, and C products are those that yield 5% of sales. And then you want to cycle count proportionately. So you want to count the products that yield 80% of the sales or A products 6 times more frequently than you do the 15% of sales products. And then you want to count the 15% of sales 3 times more than the 5%. And I think my math is right there, but you guys can do the math yourself and figure out 80% are first, that's why they're your A's, 15% are second, which is why they're B's, 5% are third, which is why they're C's. The second method of cycle counting is control group cycle counting. Control group cycle counting means you are going to select a product category, or a bin of areas to count. And then you're going to do that over and over and over again until it yields an inaccurate inventory result. So what you're going to find when you have a set of products that you're counting over and over and over again is that you're going to immediately find any discrepancies and any issues with the inventory. Now, this is fascinating because the more you count, the higher the propensity of you finding a mistake, the higher the propensity that you can fix that mistake by giving your team and your staff a set of processes that enable you to fix that mistake. And then you can take that mistake or that fix and extrapolate it out to the rest of your products. That's why control group cycle counting is so dang powerful, because it enables you to use a small batch cycle counting principle and find mistakes and apply them to your entire inventory. Normally, this type of cycle counting is used to find mistakes. It's not normally the best, most efficient way to do the cycle counting within your warehouse. You can leave that to the ABC method. Now at this stage you're probably, Mickey, but I've got a warehouse that has mostly the same items, just small variations between them. What should I do? Listen, Johnny, I think in that case you should use the random sample cycle counting. You should take a random sample of your items. Specifically, you should take a number, right, that allows you to get through all those items in 1 year by counting X number of items per day, and you should count them every single day randomly. Now, the randomness of this sampling allows you to find a discrepancy within an item group that you would have not otherwise checked, which means you might find that your employee stealing a product that is slow moving, whereas the high rotation products aren't touched. And because nobody notices that you're not selling those products, they're still getting stolen from, right? So what you want to do is you want to implement a random sampling technique where you write down all your products, and again, you assign X number of products per day until all of the products have been counted per year. So now that you know the different cycle count methods, let's now discuss how to do cycle counts. Step 1, define and decide on a cycle count method. Is it the ABC method? Is it the control group method? Or is it the random sample method? Pick one. Step number 2, define the number of SKUs and the frequency at which you want to count them per year. So let's say, for instance, I've got 1,000 SKUs in my warehouse and I want to count each SKU once per year. Well, that math is pretty straightforward. That means we want to count roughly 83 SKUs per month. We want to count 21 SKUs per week. We want to count 3 SKUs per day. That's simple. If you wanted to do this double, so if you wanted to count your SKUs twice a year, then you would double that up and you would do 6 a day. That's straightforward. So calculate the frequency and the number of SKUs in your warehouse so that you can define how many items you have to count every single day. Step number 3, identify your counting resources. When are your employees available to count? What employees are available? Now, most of my customers, they use lulls in productivity or times where the lull in productivity is high for employees, for instance, after lunch or after their shift or right as their shift is ending to do cycle counts. Because to be frank, the cycle count activity is kind of an activity that doesn't require a whole lot of brain power to do. You literally have to walk up to a bin, look at an item, and count the quantity. It's that straightforward. So once you identify the resources and the times at which you're going to do it, you should be able to up the overall productivity of your warehouse. Hey, I'm sorry for interrupting your video, but before you continue, do me a favor, scroll down below, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe. I'm trying to pop out content like this to help your business every single day. Anyways, back to the video. So now that you know just about everything about cycle counts, let's discuss cycle count best practices. The first best practice is you want to make cycle counts a daily occurrence. You want to make them a culture that's ingrained into your employees. They need to be accustomed to doing cycle counts. They need to feel uncomfortable if they haven't done cycle counts for the day. Imagine for a moment you've never done cycle counts and you're now trying to apply this idea to the employee. The employee is going to be, a little bit resentful, they're going to give you some pushback in regards to whether or not they want to do cycle counts. But if the employee from day one is trained and knows that the cycle count is a critical aspect of their job, then they're going to be able to do cycle counts seamlessly and frictionlessly. The second best practice to cycle counting is to make sure that all of your inventory transactions for that bin that you're counting have been closed down. I can't tell you how many customers I have that go and pick from a bin. They don't have a network connectivity, so that transaction doesn't apply automatically. And whilst that transaction is sitting on their scanner, someone else goes and they count the bin. Now, when both of those transactions are sent at the same time, depending on when they're executing, yields normally an inventory that's messed up. So make sure that your inventories or that your transactions for the inventories in those bins are closed down. Because if they're not, that could yield an in sequence, let's say a sequence of events that process a transaction before the other, thus leading to an inventory that's messed up. Number 3, use the inventory accuracy formula. So the inventory accuracy formula allows you to divide the number of items you counted whose inventory was incorrect by the total number of items within your inventory. So let's say I've got 1,000 items in my inventory and I counted 10 items that were incorrect. Well, that means that my inventory inaccuracy quotient is now 1%. And you guys want to maintain this inventory inaccuracy quotient over time because you want to see if it's moving up or it's moving down. You can even maintain it by item, by SKU, or by bin. Number 4, identify the fastest moving items in the warehouse. Again, eventually most of us, we're going to end up in the ABC method of cycle counting. And in order to do so, you need to know which items move the fastest. Now I know you may go look at your sales numbers and the money may look good, but if you don't know which items are actually moving quickly, then you won't know which items to actually apply cycle counts to. Best practice number 5, always cycle count bins when they get empty. So this is something you could do that's super simple. Instead of waiting to cycle count, once every month or whatever it takes for that bin to come up in your cycle count regimen to be counted, always count a bin when it's empty. So if I pick from a bin and I pick the remaining 5 cases, now there's no product in that bin, I think your warehouse manager should come down and count that bin. Now that ensures that you put a practice in place that always accentuates the accuracy of the inventory within those bins, and it may yield some small errors that you can find and again, fix and apply those fixes across all your bins. So again, count all your bins when they get empty. Point number 6, the first time you do a cycle count, make sure you count twice. I can't tell you how many times I've personally gone in to cycle count for a customer. I scan the item and I start counting and I count 80. And then I'm like, let me count this again because I think I lost track in the middle of that counting. So I do it again and then the count comes out as 85. And then I'm like, okay, now I'm really second guessing myself. Let's do it third. Now I do it again and the count comes out as 85. So that validates that the count I counted the second time was indeed the correct count. So most of us, we think that we're counting correctly the first time, whereas the reality is most of us make mistakes while counting because we start thinking about other things. We let other things cloud our judgment and cloud our mind, which leads us to lose count, okay? So what you want to do on an initial cycle count is count 2 times. Point number 7, count one bin, one area, one segment of products, and not the entire warehouse. You guys have got to get away from the habit of counting everything. Counting everything is not only unproductive, but it forces you to shut down your operations, which means you're going to lose money or you're going to have to pay extra payroll in the way of overtime, which again leads to lost money for you. Make sure you identify which segment, which product line, what bin you want to count, and make a schedule as we talked about before in this video. That's the most important thing. Best practice number 8, and the last best practice, change up your cycle count schedule. So let's say you have Jimmy cycle counting the first month, change it up to Bobby on month 2, then change it up to Billy on month 3, and constantly be cycling through who cycle counts because that makes it more difficult for your employees, for any one person to game the system and to steal from your business. If you've got the same person cycle counting over and over and over again, it becomes increasingly easy for them to input an incorrect value and steal the difference from your bin. So again, cycle through, no pun intended, cycle through the people who are doing the cycle counts. All right, guys, I hope that you enjoyed that video. I'm sorry if I blabbed on a little bit at some points, but the whole purpose was to provide you with some insight in regards to the cycle count, how it works, and how you should do it. If you enjoyed the video, go down below, give me a thumbs up, give me a subscribe, and I look forward to seeing you next video.